They came over to my workplace to threaten me, but I refused to be scared of them. Your precious little daughter is going to jail whether you like it or not. Yell all you want. I'm going to testify against her. And on the day of the hearing, I fearlessly walked into the witness box and said my truth. I also showed the recording I took. It was clear. My sister killed the girl. There was no need for further argument. The judge decided to pass his verdict. 36 years in prison with no options for bail. If she ever tried to escape, she would be killed. I watched my parents wail at the corner where they sat, but I didn't budge. The girl's parents thanked me so much for helping them get justice. Speaking to them, I left the courtroom. My mom fainted at the entrance of the place on their way out and had a heart attack. She was quickly taken to the hospital. Of course not. A year later, they came over to my place to ask for forgiveness. Have you ever experienced being the less favored child? Being the one to watch your parents steal the world for their golden child? Well, I have. My name's Brittany, and I'm the youngest of my parents' children. My parents had my sister at the time when life was still rosy for them. They were both fresh graduates and had gotten good jobs without even struggling. They got married a year later and had my sister 2 years later. On the day my sister was born, my dad got a promotion at work, so it was a double celebration for him. As for my mom, the company she worked at granted her leave for a whole year and still paid her monthly for it. They thought my sister was their good luck charm, so they adored her. They spoiled her silly. My sister attended the best school and got whatever she asked for. She wasn't allowed to lack anything. Well, 5 years later, they had me. Unfortunately, my dad wasn't aware that I was coming that day, so he left my mom and went to work. That same day, he had a physical fight with one of the workers at the company where he worked. As a result of that, he got suspended indefinitely. It was on his way home that he got informed about my arrival. He didn't feel as excited because he was already having a bad day. Anyway, I was finally brought home with my parents after 3 days at the hospital. On the day we arrived home, my mom got a call from her workplace. Unlike the first time, she was only given 3 months leave this time and wouldn't receive any pay in those 3 months. All of the sudden happenings caused my parents to be devastated. And not just that, it made them start to hate me because they thought I brought bad luck to them. After 3 months, I was left in the care of my dad, who still hadn't been called back to work. My dad didn't care about me, and he didn't hide it. He would often feed my sister and hug her, ignoring my cries for food and warmth. As time went on, my sister also inherited the hatred. It was obvious that my parents didn't like me, and seeing that, my sister also showed her dislike for me. When we got to high school, my sister would bully me nonstop and laugh with her friends whenever I cried. One time, my sister came into the cafeteria during break, where almost everyone was. I was wondering why she was suddenly walking towards me, because the only time she approached me was to make fun of me.
Did you tell them you wet the bed last night?
Wet the bed? I'd stopped before I was even 2. My dad had forced me to learn how to use a potty at 9 months old. He did that because he was tired of having to change my diaper every time. In fact, my sister was the one who continuously wet her bed until she was 6. I was confused as to why she was finally asking me if I told my friends about something that never happened. What do you mean? I didn't wet my bed. I don't do that. I couldn't let her lie like that. It was annoying. I didn't care if she was going to hit me. All I knew was I wanted to stand up for myself.
Everyone! Brittany wets her bed. Be careful how you associate with her so you don't catch the bedwetting virus.
All the courage I'd mustered was gone. Hearing everyone laugh in the cafeteria broke my heart. I looked up and saw my friends laughing too. That broke my heart even more. In shame, I stood up and ran out of the cafeteria. I went to the bathroom and cried so hard. I felt so embarrassed. When we got home and I reported what happened to my parents, they acted as though they were deaf. Their eyes remained on the TV show they were watching. It felt as if I didn't even exist. That pushed me to more tears. Just as I was about to leave the living room, my sister came in. My parents, who completely ignored me about 2 minutes ago, were suddenly speaking to my sister and telling her what the show was about. I slapped myself mentally for thinking they would have my back. I retired to my room where I cried until I fell asleep. Life continued like that, with my sister being the world's favorite every time. When I finished high school, my sister was already in her 3rd year in college. I needed to pay a fee to apply for a scholarship exam, but my parents refused to give it to me.
We have no money to give to you. Go get a job. You're not too young to work.
You're 20 and asking us for money? That's so low of you. Get a job or forget about college.
Of course, I expected that. I mean, why would they waste their money on me when their golden daughter needed it more? It made me feel sad, though. I wasn't asking them to see me through college. All I wanted was a very little amount to use in applying for a scholarship. After their refusal, I checked the ending date for registration and saw that it was still 2 months away. I was so happy. I went out in search of a job, and luckily, I got one at a high school as a janitor. No, I never dreamed about being a janitor. The older workers there felt sad for me. They'd never seen a janitor who was young like me. Well, I worked hard. The workers were kind enough to help me sometimes. After 1 month, I got my salary. It was 10 times the money I needed, and that made me have second thoughts. I imagined how much money I would make in 6 months if I didn't resign. It was a lot. So, I decided to continue working there. I paid the scholarship fee, got registered, and then waited for the day of the scholarship. I didn't let my parents know that I'd been able to pay the fee. I asked him again 2 days after I paid with my money, but they lashed out at me.
Don't they pay you for the silly work you do? Use that for your stupid scholarship and quit bothering us.
Again, I felt bad. I knew they had the money. They were both just being unfair to me. Well, eventually, the day of the scholarship exam came. I was granted a day to be absent at work. I made my way to the school where it was to be held. It didn't take long to arrive there. I walked straight to the room. The exam didn't take long. We were asked to wait for another 2 hours to get our results. I waited. 2 hours came and the results were out. Luckily for me, I passed. I was granted the scholarship. My joy knew no bounds. When I got home and broke the news to my family, they all acted indifferently. I didn't get even the tiniest congratulations from them. Well, it did bother me a little, but I soon pushed it off to think of how to merge work with it. By the time school started, 3 months later, I already figured out a way. I'd stopped working as a janitor. I now work at a restaurant. I go there only in the evenings, and I only work for 6 hours. The salary is a little higher than the first job, so I was very comfortable with it. In my 3rd year in college, I moved out of my parents' house. My sister was already done, but she refused to work. My parents made me give my sister part of my salary monthly, and that made me angry. She also got into trouble many times with our neighbors. Rather than discipline her for her silliness, my parents would lash out at our neighbors, claiming they provoked my sister. I moved out because I was fed up with all of that. Life alone was peaceful and the best for my mental health. My parents didn't try to stop me. They didn't need me after all. At a point after I moved out, I stopped talking to them. They didn't bother me either. Life was going that way until I saw my sister beating a girl up one day on my way back from work. I quickly hid behind a car. The girl was already bleeding and looked like she'd passed out already, but my sister didn't stop. I pulled out my phone and recorded the scene. When my sister suddenly left, I went to the girl and saw that she wasn't breathing anymore. Out of fear, I ran away. For days, that scene was in my head. I couldn't believe my sister was a murderer. I wondered what the girl's family were going through. It was about a week later before I heard that the girl's parents were suing my sister. Apparently, the girl had told them she was going to settle things with my sister after they fought over a man. So, my sister was a huge suspect. I also heard that it would help them better if they had a witness and evidence. I decided to step in. The girl deserved justice. I didn't care about my sister going to jail. She and my parents never cared for me. I always felt alone with them, so I considered them strangers. I visited the girl's parents and promised to be their witness. I also told them I had evidence. They thanked me so much, her mom in tears. They couldn't be more grateful. My family got to hear about it somehow, and they were livid. They came over to my workplace to threaten me, but I refused to be scared of them. Your precious little daughter is going to jail whether you like it or not. Yell all you want. I'm going to testify against her. On the day of the hearing, I fearlessly walked into the witness box and said my truth. I also showed the recording I took. It was clear. My sister killed the girl. There was no need for further argument. The judge decided to pass his verdict. 36 years in prison with no options for bail. If she ever tried to escape, she would be killed. I watched my parents wail at the corner where they sat, but I didn't budge. The girl's parents thanked me so much for helping them get justice. After I was done speaking to them, I left the courtroom. My mom fainted at the entrance of the place on their way out and had a heart attack. She was quickly taken to the hospital. It was a very hard time for them. But did I care? Of course not. A year later, they came over to my place to ask for forgiveness, but I kicked them out. I knew they only came because they were lonely, but I refused to fill that space for them. They deserve to live in pain. I hear they live with 4 cats, and my dad has been diagnosed with cancer, so my mom takes care of him alone. It's been 5 whole years, and I'm now married to the love of my life. I still don't talk to my parents. In fact, I live in a different country now, where they'd never find me. My sister still has 30 years to spend in jail. By the time she's out, I'm sure my parents won't be alive anymore. As for my sister, she'd be nearly 70 by then. She'd surely be miserable. What can she achieve as an ex-convict at age 70? Absolutely nothing. I feel no ounce of pity for her. She deserves it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.